So Ian and Jen are here tonight to answer all the questions. Hopefully I won't have to answer much. But no more presentation, but happy to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Sorry, John.
Not a question, Chair. If we're turning to talk about the substance of the new version, I've got quite a few little minor comments to make. But when you're ready.
Yep, absolutely. Go ahead. Yes.
I thought we'd probably be working through it sort of chapter by chapter, but I'm looking at page 9, which is it's the details really, 9, 10, and 11, where we're sort of looking at the specifics. Do you want me to take them in order?
Yeah.
So our health and well-being, page 9, item 2, give our communities the tools to save lives by providing funding for defibrillators, trauma and bleed kits, and training in the resuscitation, skills and suicide prevention. Is this funding on request, is what I scribbled in the margin, or what? What's the basis of...
If you outline your points, then we can answer them all in sequence. Would that be okay?
Yeah? Do you want me to carry on?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the next item was number 3 for health and wellbeing, promote awareness of domestic abuse through targeted campaigns and protective of sport victims, survivors of safe places and sanctuary schemes. I wondered where the safe places and sanctuary schemes would be, what actually we're talking about. So perhaps a little bit more clarity about that one. And then the next sort of subheading, help residents prevent, survive and recover from financial hardship. The second of those, which is point 5, I just thought we could write, this could be written a little bit more exactly really. It says ensure supports available for residents to help them access essential welfare support through enhanced communication, partnership working, targeted campaigns, strengthening network, in-person support, rather a lot of support here, available across the district. So what I wrote really was exactly what does this imply? Could we be a bit clearer about the details? That's quite a lot of generality there. Let me pause there because I don't want to hog the evening. We can come back maybe further on.
So, yes, Jenny.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Rain, for your questions. I think to answer your first point, and Jen's going to follow up with some detail about what that looks like, but you'll note from the opening that the intention around the priority is to continue to invest to support and enable our communities become healthier, safer and stronger. And one of those focuses for us is around preventable death. And obviously you've picked up the particular aspiration that we have around equipping our communities with both the infrastructure and the skills in order to save lives. Jen will talk a bit more about what we're actually establishing, but it is on request of any community, business or organisation across the Malvern District who'd like to get involved in doing that. And we've already had an all-parish councillor meeting organised with CALC recently to talk to them more about that in detail. So things are afoot. I think the broader point I'd make about your questions is that obviously what sits behind these headlines is going to be more of a detailed action plan that talks to what that actually means in detail. So your latter question around, what does that look like? Well, some of that we are very aware of what we need to do, making sure our website's up to date, making sure our communications reach people, work in partnership where we know there's customers that might be experiencing hardship. But it's also a little bit more fluid because recognising that we're working with our resident-led commission to ensure that it changes as we go and as we learn. And if we were too specific in setting out what it meant, then we'd be effectively taking that ability to be fluid away from them. And it's that learning for us that's really crucial as we move forward. recognising that not all hardship remains looking the same. You know, we respond to things when government make changes, and we know that there's certain economic and global factors that will continue to affect people. So if that's helpful as a sort of broad explanation as to why the headlines are there, I'll let Jen give a little bit more detail about what that might look like in practice.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. So I think echo everything that Councillor Watkins just said regarding the way in which we are approaching our understanding of what the support needs are of those facing financial hardship, that absolutely we have a really engaged resident-led group now established that are meeting regularly and helping to inform, for example, our discretionary welfare assistance policy. So that's a very specific area of work where the council provides financial support to people. It is overdue a review, and so that's been a place where we've been able to really talk about the detail of what that supports, how it's accessed, etc. That our partners and residents have been able to feed into. And as we go through the period of this plan, which is obviously up to 3 years, we will then maintain that flexibility of what the areas are that we need to seek support in. But you may be aware we've got a number of different existing work streams. So, for example, the food network in Malvern Hills is really active. And that looks very specifically at the provision of emergency food through food banks, through community cupboards, that kind of thing. So it is quite a broad brush action, but that's because it encompasses quite a large amount of work. So exactly what Councillor Watkins just described. In terms of your specific questions regarding the domestic abuse priority, the safe places refer to temporary accommodation that we commission within the community. So if a victim survivor needs to leave their property, we have safe and secure safe places they're referred to as, but they are self-contained temporary accommodation for them to move to. And then Sanctuary Scheme is actually a scheme in which we provide measures that provide security to an existing property so that somebody doesn't have to leave their home. So the idea is we maintain people within their own home, but we provide additional security so that they are less at risk of harm within their own home. So just to clarify, the question I think was about where those are. So hopefully that clarifies those schemes. And then lastly, the point around funding for defibrillators, trauma and bleed kits. We're still working up the finer detail of that, but that will be on request, but also part of our approach around increasing infrastructure within our communities that's referred to in the first bullet point. So that's about enhancing the infrastructure that communities have available, whether that's in a sports club, whether that's in a community or village hall. And being able to match that funding in to build the skills through Heart Start. So some of you will be aware that Heart Start ran a session on the 14th of February at Malvern Theatres and trained, I believe, over 100 local community members in resuscitation skills. So it's a combined thing of funding the infrastructure itself, but also the skills and awareness that's required. I should also note that part of the reason we're still working on the finer details is because we're also working with public health on that, who have a limited amount of funding to input for defibrillators and particularly trauma and bleed kits. At the moment, they've been limited to county council venues, and we want to see that having much greater reach across the district. So that's where our added value comes in, because clearly county council don't necessarily have we don't necessarily have lots of facilities across the district, but we know how absolutely vitally important they are to our more rural communities. So we want to be able to provide that.
Is that it for now, John?
Could I raise one other, Chair?
Okay.
Moving to the other end of the thing, our environment, page 11. Just wondered whether I was interested really with point 31. Develop a scheme to connect residents of the district with trusted and licensed waste collection services aiming to reduce fly tipping, promote responsible waste disposal practices. What have we got in mind there? I mean, it sounds a brilliant thing to do, but to me, again, it's just a little bit woolly as to quite what it implies. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to pick this one up because it falls under the Community Safety and Environmental Protection team, although we have met with Ian's team as well regarding this. So this is based on some work that other districts have carried out, and we've had some initial conversations about how we would approach this, but effectively we would be doing a certain level of checks that waste collection organisations or man with a van are registered appropriately, publishing that list online and making that available as part of a revamped scrap campaign. So you will be aware hopefully already of the scrap campaign. It's probably time for a refresh, which provides residents with an ability to check that the person that they are paying to dispose of their waste is correctly licensed and doing the job properly. Some of the conversations we have had when we've met so far have been about ensuring that we are not recommending businesses. We are not saying that they will do a good job. We are just saying, here's what we've checked. We can confirm that they are registered as we would expect to. But part of that is also about promoting to residents that they should be checking these things because they are responsible if their rubbish is then dumped illegally.
That can I just say that is brilliant, because that is something that is a real problem. Can I also say that I've had confirmation as well that we are going to be getting an empty homes officer, which I think is brilliant. We all agreed that that was something that we all thought was a fantastic addition to the plan. One other thing that I was going to bring up, I've noticed that other major venues are now having allergy training as well. So, the provision to be able to provide an EpiPen or, at least training for that. So I was thinking about the theatres particularly for that, because there are large amounts of people going to the... So it might be another thing to add to that. Okay. Is there anything... John?
Yeah, if I could just refer people to page 11, item 28. It's been amended, the support for major flood alleviation, including Tenbury Wells. Now, this has been pushed back and may not occur now at all. And I'm just wondering if we need a rethink about what support we can give Tenbury Wells. I don't know if Councillor Wilmot has any ideas.
Yes, I attended a meeting last week with Harriet Baldwin and the Environment Agency, and the Environment Agency confirmed that the Tenbury flood relief system was not going to happen within this spending period, which ends in 2026, but it would be put forward to be considered for the following period. We actually made a recommendation or a request at that meeting of the Environment Agency that the allocated funds of £17.2 million should be released either to county or to Malvern Hills District Council to administer an individual property protection, and with any surplus funds we could look at attenuation schemes up the Keir Brook or perhaps even the River Team itself. They refused at the meeting on the basis that that funding was for the physical large scheme as defined. There was other talk of funding which is needed immediately for individual property protection, but more than that we don't have at the moment. Our MP promised to allow us and locals maybe to get in front of the Minister to put our point of view, but that's yet to happen. But the important thing is the flood relief scheme has been put back again, and this time it's 2026 before they even start thinking about it again, I think. Sorry?
Have you got the wall rebuilt?
The wall is just about, I went past it this morning and checked. Even the capping stones are now on it. I think they're just in the process of tidying up and getting away. So that is one success story, almost despite the Environment Agency, who insisted on permissions, but at least They didn't take the usual number of months to get those permissions. They did it in short order, and the wall has been rebuilt as was, no higher. Yes.
Right. Well,
Chairman, can I just add to that, if that's okay?
okay.
Thank you, Councillor Wilmot. I just think that going back to John's question, I don't think we should change this action, because the scheme is still, it's not dead. It just can't progress immediately. It can't progress in this funding round, but it's not dead. So I think we need to continue with our support for that wider scheme. But in the meantime, the EA have committed to do property level protection and also natural flood management to try and alleviate the flooding issues somewhat. But that scheme is still there for the longer term if funding can be found. So I don't think we should change that. I think it should
Can
remain.
I just ask, if
Cynthia,
it's going
yeah.
into the 27 funding time, what's that period they're talking about? 27 to 30, or
I believe it's a 5-year period.
it's a 5-year one, is it?
Well, it looks like Councillor Wilmot's task and finish chairing role is going to last a bit longer than we thought and be more comprehensive, because that really is something that we're going to discuss in the next item, but we'll come to that in a minute. Anything else on the council plan? Right, we will go on to number 7 then. I think
Chairman, just on that item, are you happy that we proceed? The draft plan will carry on now to executive and to council. I think is the Scrutiny Committee happy to endorse that?
Well, I suppose so. Yes, of course we are. Yes, sorry. Yes, let's endorse it then. Is everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Right, fantastic. Okay, number 7, task and finish group, terms of reference, surface water drainage and flood related issues. We had a meeting. Andrew has kindly offered to chair this organisation going forward. And obviously, because of the Tenbury connection, which came up quite a lot in that, and also the relationship with the Environment Agency, we want the Environment Agency to come to this council at least once a year. So we will make an official request for that. And considering what you've just said, I think it is even more pertinent now than it was before. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you, Chair. I think our task this evening, according to the agenda, is fairly simple, and that's to agree the terms of reference for this group. And as our Chair has said, we've had our first meeting and we had a bit of a thrash about what the objectives should be, because it's a fairly wide topic when you start to look at it. And we agreed that our first step would be to form a matrix of what should happen in the various ways that flooding can occur in terms of the legal positions, so that at least we and others can force people, if necessary, to actually do what they should do. And as the Chair has rightly pointed out, the Tenbury situation is illustrative of what should be done and what isn't done. So, for example, Worcestershire County Council, in its role as the lead flood authority, has a duty and a law, that's the Flood and Water Management Act 2010, to do a Section 19 report on what are deemed significant floods. And according to the criteria given by Worcestershire County Council, Tenbury has had a number of significant floods, but there have been no Section 19 reports. And it was agreed at the meeting that David Harrison, as the portfolio holder, would actually get hold of Worcester and require them to do a report, which will help us in this particular task and finish group to establish what should be done, and what is in fact being avoided, perhaps, on cost grounds or whatever. So we start with constructing a matrix, which we've agreed to do, and we meet again. I think it'll be in another 5 weeks' time now. Thank you, Chair. Any questions I'm happy to answer.
I think it was quite a good meeting. I think going through some of those details was very interesting, and some of the problems that came out of it are things which are not going to go away, and they're only going to get worse. So it is a very important subject to deal with. Okay, everybody? So are we happy with those terms of reference? I was. I thought it was good. Yep. Okay. Right, so that's agreed. Next. Council's forward plan. Has everybody had a look at that? We are going to probably have an ONS meeting in June. Yes. We'll have a pre-meet before that, and that will be to discuss housing issues, wasn't it? Or, oh, that's the no. The what was the June one was for something else. It's the member work plan meeting. That's it. No, not the public one. Sorry, I was getting confused. Yes, the May one is the Jen Taylor show. Yeah, the double gens, I should say. Yeah. But anyway, yes, platform housing and community safety. So I think we're happy with that. Is there anything on the council's forward plan that anybody else wanted to bring up? Okay. And last but not least, overview and scrutiny work programme, just touched on it. That non-public meeting will be the only difference to the agenda, obviously, that we were talking about. So, yeah, we'll give plenty of advance warning about that. But if anybody has any other issues that they'd like to discuss at that meeting, because it isn't a public meeting, then please bring them forward at that point. And that is that. Is that okay? Right, brilliant. Thank you very much for coming, everybody.